In the heart of ancient Egypt, where the golden light of the sun spilled endlessly across the desert sands, a woman's name once echoed like a whisper among the stones of time: Nefertiti. Even now, more than 3,000 years later, her beauty still haunts us. Her face, carved in limestone, painted with soft hues of ochre and lapis, stares from the famous bust that survived the collapse of her world. She is poised, eternal, almost too perfect. But behind that immortal mask lies a story far darker, far more human. This is not simply the tale of a queen's beauty. It is the story of ambition, power, betrayal, and disappearance. For Nefertiti was not just a queen, she was a revolution. She came into Egypt's history in the 14th century before Christ, in the waning days of the 18th dynasty. Egypt was weary. The old gods had grown complacent, their temples fat with wealth, their priests wielding power almost greater than Pharaoh himself. The golden empire of the Nile still shone, but cracks were spreading across its surface. It was into this fragile world that a young woman, radiant and enigmatic, stepped from the shadows. Nefertiti, her very name means the beautiful one is come. We do not know her birth with certainty. Some say she was a foreign princess from the kingdom of Mitanni, sent to Egypt as part of an alliance. Others believe she was the daughter of a high official who would later himself become pharaoh. Whatever her origin, the truth is this. When Nefertiti appeared at court, she carried with her a beauty and presence so commanding that even history struggled to look away. She married a prince named Amenhotep. He was not destined to be great, at least, not yet. Amenhotep was awkward, idealistic, a dreamer rather than a warrior. In a world where pharaohs were expected to conquer, to lead armies, to spill blood in the name of Egypt's gods, Amenhotep seemed unsuited. But with Nefertiti at his side, his destiny shifted. When he rose to the throne, together they would set fire to the very heart of Egypt's soul. When Amenhotep became pharaoh, he took a new name: Akhenaten, servant of the Aten. Aten was not one of the old gods like Amun, Osiris, or Isis. Aten was the sun itself, the radiant disk that stretched across the sky. To Akhenaten, Aten was not merely a god, but the god, singular force, the source of all life. This was heresy. For centuries, Egypt had thrived under the rule of dozens upon dozens of gods, their temples sprawling across the Nile Valley. The priests of Amun in particular had become enormously wealthy, their influence rivaling Pharaoh's own. But Akhenaten and Nefertiti together declared war upon this ancient order. They closed temples, stripped priests of power, and raised new sanctuaries to Aten. And always, by Akhenaten's side, stood Nefertiti. Like queens before her, she was no silent consort. She appeared in public ceremonies, her image carved on temple walls beside her husband's. She is shown smiting enemies like a pharaoh, standing tall and regal, the rays of Aten's sun falling upon her. In one relief she holds her children tenderly, in another she wears the blue crown of kingship. She was not just a queen, she was almost a pharaoh in her own right. The city of Thebes, with its towering temples of Amun, could not contain this revolution. And so Akhenaten and Nefertiti abandoned it. They built a new city from the desert sands, Akhetaten, the horizon of the Aten. Today it is called Amarna, Dagenate, the golden walls rising under the sun. Temples open to the sky so that Aten's light could pour directly onto the altars. No dark sanctuaries, no hidden chambers. The old gods had required shadows. Aten demanded only light. In this new city, Nefertiti was everywhere. Her statues, her likeness, her presence filled the streets. She was not a figure behind the throne. She was the throne. But revolutions burn bright and they burn fast. In Amarna's golden light, the royal family seemed perfect. Akhenaten and Nefertiti are shown with their 6 daughters, playing, laughing, living like no other royal family in Egyptian art before them. They touched each other, kissed their children, basked in the rays of the Aten. It was intimate, almost shockingly human for the time. But beneath the carved reliefs and painted walls, tensions brewed. The priests of Amun seethed in the shadows, stripped of power, watching their temples desecrated. The people of Egypt, who had for centuries worshipped a pantheon of gods, grew restless. Aten was remote, abstract. He offered no myths of death and rebirth like Osiris, no motherly comfort like Isis. He was the sun itself, brilliant but distant, untouchable. Even within the palace, whispers began. Some said Akhenaten grew increasingly obsessed, retreating from the world, leaving more and more of the duties of rule to Nefertiti. She negotiated, commanded, and appeared before the people. For some, it was exhilarating, the most powerful queen Egypt had ever known. For others, it was scandalous. Then came tragedy. 3 of Nefertiti's daughters died young. The reliefs that once showed a joyful family began to vanish. And in the shadows of history, something else happened, something scholars still debate. Around the 12th year of Akhenaten's reign, Nefertiti disappears. Her name is chiseled from monuments. Her images vanish from the walls. In some places, another name appears, Nefertiti. Some believe this was Nefertiti herself taking on a new role, ruling as pharaoh after her husband's health declined. Others whisper of disgrace, of betrayal, of exile. Did she fall out of favor? Did she die suddenly? Or did she, like Hatshepsut before her, seize the throne in secret, only to be erased later by enemies? No one knows. What we do know is this. Akhenaten died not long after. The city of Amarna collapsed. The old gods returned with a vengeance. And Nefertiti, whether as queen, pharaoh, or prisoner, was swallowed whole by the desert of time. What happened to Nefertiti? It is one of history's most enduring mysteries. One moment she was everywhere, her statues rising beside pharaohs, her name etched into stone with royal epithets, her image painted in brilliant colors across the walls of Amarna. Then, suddenly, silence. Around the 12th year of Akhenaten's reign, the records change. The queen who once stood beside him is gone. There's no grand funerary stele, no tomb inscriptions, no mourning rituals preserved. Her name, so proudly displayed, begins to fade. Some scholars believe she died suddenly, perhaps of plague, which swept through Egypt in those years. Letters from foreign courts speak of epidemics, of royal families devastated by illness. Could Nefertiti have been one of its victims? But there is another possibility. Some fragments of inscriptions mention a figure named Nefertiti, who may have ruled as pharaoh after Akhenaten. That name was one of Nefertiti's own epithets. Could it be that she did not vanish at all? That she simply changed roles, stepping forward as king in her own right, hiding in plain sight under another title? There are even whispers of scandal. Some imagine a rift between her and Akhenaten, a palace intrigue that led to her disgrace, her erasure. Others point to her daughters, one of whom, some believe, may have been married to Akhenaten himself in his later years. Did rivalry poison the royal house? Nefertiti pushed aside, her memory deliberately struck from the record. Whatever the truth, one thing is certain. By the time Akhenaten died, Nefertiti had either already perished or she had become a shadow ruler, desperately trying to hold the collapsing world of Amarna together. Akhenaten's death unleashed chaos. His vision of a new world, devoted to Aten, had never truly taken root beyond the walls of his golden city. The priests of Ammon, long humiliated, rose swiftly to reclaim their power. The army, restless after years of neglect, abandoned the strange new religion. The city of Akhenaten, the horizon of the Aten, was doomed. Imagine the streets that once rang with hymns to the sun god now falling silent. The open-air temples crumbled under neglect, their altars cold. Statues of Akhenaten were toppled, their faces smashed by hammers. Reliefs of Aten's radiant disk were defaced, gouged from the walls. And in this whirlwind of destruction, Nefertiti's fate was sealed. If she still lived, she may have tried to hold on to power. Some fragments suggest that a female ruler, perhaps Nefertiti, perhaps her daughter, reigned briefly in the chaos after Akhenaten's death. But soon, another name rose above the rest: Tutankhamun, the boy who would become Tutankhamun. Tutankhamun was one of Akhenaten's sons, likely not by Nefertiti but by another wife. Still barely old enough to rule. Under the pressure of the priests and generals, he changed his name. Tutankhaten became Tutankhamun, living image of Amen. The old gods were restored. Amarna was abandoned. The royal mummies were moved, their tombs desecrated. And Nefertiti's name, once sung in hymns, was systematically erased. For centuries after, the memory of Nefertiti lay buried beneath the sands. Egypt's kings did not want her remembered. To them, she was part of the heresy of Amarna, a queen who had helped overturn the gods themselves. Erasure was deliberate. Her statues were smashed, her images defaced, her tomb, if she ever had one, lost to history. And yet the irony is cruel. Her face survived when so much else perished. In 1912, in the ruins of Amarna, a German archaeological team uncovered a limestone bust of Nefertiti. Unlike most ancient statues, it was vivid, lifelike, painted with delicate detail. The high cheekbones, the long neck, the serene expression, all so striking that the world was transfixed. Here she was, after more than 3,000 years. The beautiful one had truly come. Her image traveled the globe, sparking fascination, obsession, even political conflict, for she had become more than a queen, more than a consort of Akhenaten. She was a symbol of beauty, of mystery, of the haunting fragility of power. But behind the perfection of that bust lies the truth we must not forget. Nefertiti was not merely an icon of grace. She was a woman who stood at the heart of a revolution, who challenged centuries of tradition, who may have ruled as Pharaoh herself. She was also a woman erased, silenced, lost. Did Nefertiti die in glory, standing as Pharaoh beside the Aten? Or did she die in disgrace, cast aside in the shadows of her husband's obsession? Was she buried in a tomb still waiting to be discovered, her body hidden in the sands of Egypt? Some archaeologists believe she may lie in a secret chamber within the tomb of Tutankhamun himself, undiscovered to this day. We do not know. Perhaps we never will. Yes. But in a way, Nefertiti has triumphed. The priests of Amun tried to erase her. The pharaohs who came after tried to bury her memory. Time itself tried to swallow her name. Yet when we look upon her face today, carved so delicately, painted with such love, we remember her, not just as a beauty, but as a force of history. Her story is a reminder of the fragility of power, the cruelty of ambition, and the endurance of human memory. In the shifting sands of the desert, empires rise and fall, gods are born and die, names are exalted and forgotten. But sometimes, just sometimes, a single face endures. Nefertiti's beauty may have been her mask, but her true legacy lies in what it conceals. The story of a woman who stood at the center of one of history's boldest experiments, who, even in disappearance, became eternal. And so, when you look upon Nefertiti's face in the museum in Berlin, remember, you are not looking at mere beauty. You are looking into the eyes of a woman who dared to rewrite the soul of Egypt, who vanished into silence, but who returns again and again, every time we whisper her name. Nefertiti.